Let me ask you something. When was the last time you ghosted someone and why?
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah.
Ghosting.
Yeah.
Well, like ghosting is a tricky one because I think sometimes you might have even forgotten that you've done it. Does that make sense?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I think if you like someone, you want to continue the conversation, I think you continue with intention.
Okay, so how do we define ghosting? Is it like you've already been on the date and then you've ignored them, or is it just like you just haven't texted them back? Is that ghosting?
Both of those. Yeah. Like if you go on a date and they reach out to you and you don't respond, or if you've been texting back and forth and you just stop responding. Mm-hmm. She's done it a lot, guys. Clearly, you can tell.
No, last time I ghosted somebody was...
She's like, what day is it today? Shit, Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, stop. Probably like last month. I did ghost somebody.
Okay, why did you ghost him?
Yeah. I just wasn't into them.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Had you gone on a couple of dates or?
We went on one date.
Right.
Yeah, so...
Did he take you somewhere fancy? He didn't take you to McDonald's, did he?
It wasn't McDonald's. No, we had a nice date.
Nice.
I didn't feel any sort of vibe, really. Yeah.
What is this vibe?
And then you leave it too long, don't you, to reply or text back, and then...
That's kind of semi-intentional though, isn't it? Like if you didn't feel the vibe, you're like, I'm not that fussed about you. Because if you felt the vibe, you would respond, wouldn't you?
I mean, I always try to be quite intentional with somebody. If I go on the date, I would probably try and wrap it up at the end. I'll be in touch soon,
Sounds like a job interview.
What? No, like I had a really nice time and like to make it quite clear, I guess.
What, that you do like them, that you don't?
No, yeah, like be very clear and intentional. Because I think the other way around, guys are terrible for that. Like they're really bad at it. They'll be like, I'll call you later. And then they've got no intention of calling, or they're, I might text you or whatever. And they've got no, whereas like, I think, for me, I was like, okay, when the shoe's the other foot, it's horrible. So always be like really clear and intentional with the dude, So like, just be really frank. I just want to be friends. I'm not going to call, or I don't want to see you again.
Okay.
Because maybe going back to what you said before, how they're a bit more logical or they're not going to be so emotional, they can take it. They can take it a lot more. So I feel like with guys, when they ghost, they say it because they're kind of like, oh, I just want to kind of like make sure she's going to be all right. I'll just say it. I'll say I'm going to call so she feels okay. And then I might just not call,
So I agree.
Yeah.
I think...
which is bad. It is bad.
Yeah, I think, rightfully or wrongfully so, I think it is better to be honest. And yeah, I think guys will be like, in the moment, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll text you in a bit. And because he's prioritizing her emotions.
Right.
Over the logical thing.
Yeah.
Which is saying whatever. So with
that's why they shouldn't do that.
I agree. We should all be honest. I agree. So with this guy that you went on a date with, what did you say to him at the end?
I just, I had a really nice time and I'm just not really open to date at the moment.
Oh, that's what you said to him?
Yeah.
Why didn't you say, I think this is better as friends?
Oh yeah, I think I said that as well. Like, I'd rather be friends.
Because were you open to dating or you just weren't open to dating him?
I think after the date, I thought, no, this is not a good time right now to
Oh,
date.
okay. So that was genuine. Like you genuinely like, I'm not really in a place to date anyone.
No, I thought this is not a good time. So
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But he was okay. Like, yeah. But I did ignore his text. Well, that was a bit bad.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It happens. Like a lot of the time people are like, why did they ghost me? Like why? Like they want to find out why. We want to find out why. And I get that. We do want to find out why. But the why doesn't matter.
No.
Ghosting is a form of rejection. Ghosting someone is the same as saying, hey, I'm just not interested.
It is, but it is, like I said, I always try to be intentional and, you can still communicate it. Whereas the thing that I think why a lot of females get really annoyed is that guys don't communicate. And like you said, they're trying to prioritize their emotions. Whereas I think sometimes guys literally need to just say, look, I'm not interested. I really do. And I think that would, instead of just, leaving it, like, I think that would make things a lot easier for some women.
I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with the principle, but plenty of women ghost as well. Plenty of women don't actually say, hey, I'm just not interested, because they don't want to confront him, especially if they're in person. So I think everybody ghosts. I don't think you're like, oh, women get so upset about ghosting. Well, guys do too, but the difference is guys just kind of move on, be like, well, she ghosted me. I didn't hear from her. Whereas girls go, can't believe he ghosted me.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying about when women's emotions and feelings, when there's an issue, we prioritize it, so we have to address it. Guys, we don't.
But something I like that, like, you're kind of trying to strike a match. You're trying to strike some fire in someone, right? Like, in my experience, the guys that have confronted me about that, like, shitty behavior, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, no, you're right. I shouldn't have done that, And then I'm more likely to actually respect him and maybe even go on another date with him, because then I'm like, he's had enough confidence to come and say, who are you? Why have you done that to me? What's the reason? And confronting it. So you have to confront the situation and communicate, which I think, I'm like, that's actually, I think that's fair. And, but I feel like the other way around, if a female does that, I mean, it kind of depends on the scale of how she does it. Guys will probably think she's crazy or she's, being some psycho, but it's very normal to be like, well, hang on a minute. What's the reason for that?
I think it is normal to be like, hey, I've not heard from you. I agree. It is good and attractive when a guy can set a boundary. So if you've done something with him that crosses the line, he goes, hey, you did this. That's not okay with me.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
But when it comes to ghosting, I don't think he should try and confront her about ghosting. Just take it as she's not interested. Because if she was, she would text you back. And it's the exact same thing for women. If he was interested, he would text you back. If he's not texting you, he's not interested. And I get it. Ghosting isn't nice, but everybody does it. Some people do it because they just want to make the person feel okay in the moment. Some people do it because they want to avoid confrontation. Mm-hmm. But it's still a way of communicating. Like, no response is still communicating a type of response.
Yeah. Okay, well then, what do you consider like the time frame for ghosting? Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean a time frame? What do you mean a time
well,
frame?
Like, if you haven't replied to that person in a day, in 2 days, 3 days, a week, like, when do we like, okay, yeah, like, I've ghosted them or they've ghosted me? Like, what's the time frame? That's
an interesting question. I think...
Because I know females think about that kind of stuff a lot.
Okay, fair
they
enough.
do, It's like sometimes maybe they think, okay, yeah, he's not replied in 24 hours. And, the girlfriends will be like, it's okay, like, leave it 48 hours. Or so like funny. You have a 3-day rule and it's like, okay, well, if he's not replied by this time, then it's, which is, it's nuts. But like, I think a lot of females can get a bit like that sometimes. And it's the other way around. I think, when would you be like, okay, this chick doesn't like me?
I'd say, so usually before going on a first date, people have talked to some degree, right? They've built up some kind of rapport, usually. Not everyone. Some people are like, hey, let's just meet. But let's say they've been talking for a couple of weeks and let's say they text, the response is like every 12 hours. So he responds in the morning, she might respond in the afternoon, he might respond in the evening, right? If that is the... texting, I was going to say schedule, routine that you've developed together, if that changes after the date where, let's say, he texts her like the day after the date saying, hey, I had a really nice time, and then he doesn't hear from her for like till 3 days later, I'd be like, she's not interested.
Okay.
Because I think if she didn't respond until several days later, and when she responds, she only responds to the conversation. She doesn't go, oh, hey, sorry, I didn't get back to you. I've been busy with X, Y, and Z, because sometimes that happens. Then she's not interested because she's breaking the pattern that they've developed together. And I'd say the same for the guy. So if she's been used to hearing him every day or every other day, and then she texts him and then she doesn't hear from him for a few days, he's breaking that pattern. There's been a shift because you've met and maybe he's gone, maybe this isn't the person for me.
Wow, that's a lot. My brain's hurting from that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, whoa.
Does that make sense?
That's so many rules.
Well, not rules.
Yeah,
I think it's just like recognizing patterns. Do you know what I mean?
Recognizing patterns. Yeah, I think a lot of people have different ways of communicating as well. I was just thinking when you said that, like, you know, a lot of people can use texting as their way of communicating instead of like speaking on the phone or being in person. You know, you can hide behind your phone quite a bit.
Yeah, I've got in trouble. I'm not a big texter. Okay. I prefer phone calls.
Yeah.
So I'm the type of guy where I'd rather have a phone call once every 2 or 3 days and we have like an hour's chat, talk about what's been going on, than texting all day every day. Because I just hate being on my phone like that. I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree.
But some people are like, well, if you're not trying to text me every day, that means you don't like me.
Exactly, right? And then what would you do?
But then, yeah, like I said, I guess but then if you communicate that, just like, oh, hey, I just don't, this is how I like to communicate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I think you should both make an effort to compromise for each other. You
should make and I think, you know, if you're first meeting someone or you're kind of out in the dating world and you're like, I prefer not texting, and they're like, yeah, I do. It's like, then who then wins that sort of?
Well, I think this is the compromise. So like, if let's say she's the type of girl who's like, oh, I like texting every day. And he's like, that's really not me. Mm-hmm. I think you both make an effort to compromise, right? Because you're going to have to do that in a relationship. So let's say he's used to having a phone call once every few days and she's used to texting every day. Maybe they text every other day. So she relaxes her standard of having to talk to him every day, but he also makes an effort in an area that she values. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a reasonable compromise. What do you think?
I think it's reasonable and I'm totally on page with you, but I think in the reality of dating, like, it doesn't seem to go that way. Again, I feel like people are not willing to compromise.
Well, that's a lack of maturity on their part, and they will struggle to have long-lasting relationships because you have to compromise in relationships.
Yeah. No, of course.
Do you know what I mean? There are some things you have to compromise, like especially if... And I feel like texting, that's not a big deal to compromise on. Mm-hmm. I think it's different if you have to compromise on values. So like, for example, if one of you's like, I don't know, like super right-wing conservative and the other one's super liberal, you're just not a good match for each other because you have different values, right? So I don't think you should compromise on values. Okay. You should have the same values. Yeah. But how often you're going to text? Come on. You shouldn't break up because of that. That's silly.
It is
Especially
silly.
if you both like each other and want to be with each other. You can come to a compromise. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. But then it sounds silly, but at the same time, like, if the communication is not, you know, flowing, like, that's everything to get a relationship going, right?
I hear that. I mean, is talking every other day really stopping the flow?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't think so.
All right.
In my experience, I've found some guys do. That's what I mean. Then it's very difficult to then gauge, you know, are you doing that because you do like me or you don't like me? And, you know, I can even go a couple of days without talking to someone.
You sound like me and my guy friends. That's what we say.
Yeah, like I don't see the, you know, if you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, like, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then sometimes it can be interpreted like, oh, you know, that girl's probably talking to loads of guys and she's not really bothered, and it can go like down this massive rabbit hole, and vice versa as well for females. They can get in this sort of like mindset where, okay, you know, if I haven't spoken for a few days, like we just said, then, you know, he's not interested or he's being a player. But then it's like, well, he might just be doing other things.
Might just be busy. It's so true. It's so true.
Hope you really enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode where that clip is from, then I want you to click right here where you can watch the full episode. And if you're ready to claim your man today, enroll in my program below, and I'll see you there. Wishing you an amazing day.